The VATSIM rules are changing, and today I've got to look at the big updates that VATSIM is making to everybody who's going to be flying on their network. These are important things that anybody flying on VATSIM should know, and today I want to talk about these big changes. Hey everyone, it's Hotchmania, and today I'm talking about the big VATSIM updates because the Code of Conduct has been updated as of August 1st, 2022. The Code of Conduct are the rules that you agree to when you fly on VATSIM, and there are rules and regulations that everybody has to adhere to, and VATSIM made a number of changes. And there are some biggies in here. In fact, there's about 5 of them that I think are super important. In fact, VATSIM highlighted these as big changes, and they may impact the way that you fly going forward. These updates were posted on the VATSIM website. I'll have a link below this video so you can read them for yourselves, but it essentially covers a lot of practices to basically enhance the current state of VATSIM. And we'll talk about why they made these changes a little bit later on. Let's hit the meat and potatoes of what has changed. Number 1, use of voice communications on VATSIM. The new rule is all voice and text communication frequencies are for operational use only. Account holders shall not carry out private conversations over any communication channels, frequencies, or resources, with the exception of private text messages. The guard radio frequency, 121.5, shall not be used. Now, according to VATSIM, the reason why they're making this change is that it reinforces that voice frequencies on VATSIM can only be used for operational reasons. Now, of course, if you take this at the letter of the law, you're not supposed to carry out any personal communication over the frequency. Your buddy is online, you hear his voice. You're not supposed to say hello to them. Now, there's obviously a rationale for this in that sense that a hello turns into a hello, which turns into how are you, which turns into a long conversation. Not cool, right? But if you follow the letter of the law, technically you can't even say hello to each other on the frequency. Am I being overreacting about this? Maybe, but that's what it says in this rule. Number 2, pilot proficiency. This is definitely a rule that VATSIM has added, in my opinion, as a result of people going on Microsoft Flight Simulator, getting new aircraft, and pretty much having no idea what they're doing on there, but they're signing on the network. The new rule basically says the pilot must be familiar and proficient with the operation of the aircraft prior to connecting to the VATSIM and shall comply to all agreed rig-back air traffic control clearances or instructions. Where unable to do so, such as where operational safety is compromised, like a TCAS conflict resolution, air traffic control must be notified without delay. In addition, a pilot is expected to undergo reasonable preparation for their intended flight and potential diversions. This includes familiarization with arrival and departure airports, departure and arrival procedures, and their planned route. This includes familiarization with airspace structure to prevent infringement of controlled or restricted airspace. And a pilot shall be expected to promptly comply with basic air traffic controls that are applicable to their flight rules. This includes holding a position, flying a speed, heading, altitude, or flight level, approach to land either visually or flying an accepted instrument approach procedure. When IFR, fly a cleared route by use of nav aids, waypoints, and fly to an unplanned navigational aid waypoint when instructed. And when IFR, fly a holding pattern. All this is basically a more spelled out way to explain you need to be able to fly your aircraft, know how to use all the systems on there, and most importantly, take the direction of the air traffic controller. The excuse is you cannot go on the network and say, I don't know how to fly that, I don't know how to do that, unable, that kind of thing. Not cool. You should know how to fly your aircraft and be able to do those 5 things: hold, fly a heading, go to a different nav point, all those kinds of things. That's what they're trying to get to. Number 3, if you're flying during an event, this is a big one here, and I actually like this change quite a bit. During events and periods of high traffic, a pilot may be issued traffic management initiatives like ground stops, expect departure clearance times, calculated takeoff times. When such an initiative is in effect, a pilot is obliged to abide by the initiative. A pilot shall not circumvent these initiatives. This is a big problem that's been happening for years, where someone's on the ground, it's busy, they don't feel like waiting their turn, so they disconnect from the network, take off, do their thing, and then reconnect in the air. If you don't think this happens, it happens all the time, especially during busy events. So this one I actually am okay with. If it's a busy event, you have to understand that, and you don't have to fly on the network if you don't want to. And the last one, this one's kind of interesting, the use of real-world weather. Pilots are encouraged to utilize real current world weather at all times. Pilots must utilize at least the following current real-world weather parameters throughout all phases of flight: winds, pressure, and temperature. Now, this is interesting because, of course, in some simulators, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, sometimes real-world weather is, well, subject to interpretation by the simulator there. But the idea is that basically previous to this, you kind of do whatever you wanted to do, but now the expectation is you're going to have the same winds as everybody else that's out there, so you can't be flying in a hurricane while everyone else has clear winds or vice versa or whatnot. Anyway, these come down from VATSIM's president, Tim Barber, and it's on the website. I'll have a link to that in the description below. But what I think is really important here is VATSIM is trying to address a major problem on the network: people not following rules and or having no idea what they're doing. It happens a lot, and if you sign on during a busy time of day, come in the evenings in the East Coast of the United States, or during an event anywhere around the world, more often than not, you're going to hear pilots who simply don't know what they're doing. Now, VATSIM is about learning. This is an environment that is meant to do that. I think some of these rules make sense. I like the idea of, basically prohibiting the idea that you can disconnect and reconnect the network later on to avoid ground holes and things of that nature. I like the idea that we're all flying in the same kind of weather. I think that makes sense. And I think pilot proficiency is important. The one thing that really bothers me is probably that first rule, the use of voice communications and the idea that, all frequencies are for operational use only. Yes, of course. It's there for, instructions and whatnot. And no, we should not have a conversation being held either in text format or in, voice format, obviously, on the network. It's you got to keep the frequencies clear. I get that. But of course, if you read this rule, you shouldn't be able to say hello to somebody in a friendly manner. Now, am I reading too much into that? Maybe, but that's what the rule says. All voice and text communications are for operational use only. A hello, not when you're talking to a controller, obviously, but like, hey, Bob, I hear your voice on there. How's it going? You can't do that, which to me seems very, very silly. It seems like a little overbearing in my opinion, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think this is what they have to go through because they've gotten a lot of feedback. I know a lot of controllers who have said these kind of things. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these big changes that VATSIM has made. Do you agree with them? Which ones do you like or do you don't like? And will you continue flying on VATSIM? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so that way we can do bigger and better things here on our channel. This has been Hotchmania. We'll talk again real soon.